Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video we will talk about OS2. So let's start with some terms. First is the client ID and the client secret. Client ID and client secret is like consumer key and the consumer secret in OS1. So it's related to the application. And second is the response type. In OS2 we must provide what kind of response we want. It can be code, we want the auth code, or it can be token, we want to access the access token. We will talk about response type in the next slides. Third is scope. Scope define what powers application have over your accounts or over your information. So scope can be read, write, or anything. Actually, OS provider define some scopes, and application choose one scope or multiple scopes to access to. And when user redirect to the dialog that says application X want to access your application and do 1, 2, 3, this 1, 2, 3 is the scope. So and fourth, this is state. State is a random number or character to prevent the CSRF attack. We will have a talk about state I think in the next session. And finally, redirect URI. This is a redirect URL that user will redirect back after he approve or decline the access of this application. Okay. Let's talk about OS2 two-legged. It's not common actually, but it's used in some internal applications. It's very simple. The application requests a token from the backend API, and backend API returns access token and expiration. That's it. No other requests or operations done. Let's see how the request or parameter of the request. There are three parameters: grant type, client credentials, and there is a client ID and client secret. Here you send client ID and client secret together. With the grant type you want a client credentials. The server responds with the access token and expires in. This is defined when the access token expired, and you use the access token in further requests to access the information you want. Very simple. And there is the OS2 three-legged. This is the most common, most used OS2 in the market. It works like this: the application asks for access code from the backend API. The backend API redirect the user to a dialog to accept or decline the application request. So the user ask the user for to grant application access. User approve the access to this application. Backend API will redirect the user back to the application with access code. The application use this code to exchange it for access token from the backend API. Backend API will return the access token. This simple. It's much simpler than OS 1.0 and don't actually use a signed request, and it's much simpler. And the user here redirect from the backend API will redirect him. In the OS1, the application he redirect the user. Okay, let's take a look on the request. The request is consists of client ID, and here is the response type. For the first request, the response type will be code. And there is redirect URI. This is the redirect URL the user will be redirected to after he grants the access. And here is the scope and state for the CSRF prevention. And after this request, the user will be redirected to grant the access, and then redirect back to the redirect URL with the access code. The application will send another request to get the access token with client ID, and here is the grant type, the token, and the client secret, and access code which had from the previous redirect, and redirect URI and state to get the access token. Okay, let's see the URL examples. This is the first URL the user will be clicked on to grant the access. Server.com. So this is the OAuth endpoint for the API, and here is the responder type, the code, and client ID, redirect URI, and scope, and this is the state for the CSRF. Here, after clicking this URL, the user will be redirected to the dialog of granting the access to the application. When the user click accept, the user will be redirected to the application URL with auth code here, and state, the same state that the application sent to the OAuth endpoint. And the application will make a post request to the OAuth server with grant type. He wanted the authorization code, which access token, sorry, and the code he get from the previous request, the redirect URI, client ID, and client secret, and he will get response like this. This is the access token and expires in a second. Here, this is expires in 1 hour, and the application will be use this token to access further informations or any request to the OAuth. So he sent the authorization header bearer, and this is the token, the access token. Okay, we finish the standards of OAuth protocols. We talked about OAuth 1.0a, and we talked about OAuth 2. Please read further about the two protocols, especially OAuth 2. OAuth 2 is the most used in the market. I will post some tutorials and articles links to read it further. In the next session, we will talk about attacks, and attacks on OAuth is the most dangerous attacks in the market today. So be prepared. See you next time. Thank you.